what's a growth experiment anyway? It's really a way that we can process and test some type of research to different solutions and leads before we actually commit hard dollars, time, and effort into the actual full-blown experiment, right? So it does help us save time. So what are the advantages, right? It can help us to create some type of certainty and minimize risk by looking at a small sample size rather than just rolling out the experiment with all our customers or all our potential customers. We're only offering it to perhaps a small portion, and that way that can help us to decide whether or not we want to move forward with this type of growth strategy. It also helps to create a platform for long-term success, right? And so we want to think about that as well, because anything that we do that can help to implement growth can be successful as long as we can prove that it will be successful, that it has merit behind it, not necessarily proof, but more of a merit to move forward. And then we certainly want it to align with our long-term goals. So somehow it needs to be positioned in a way that can help the business grow. So how do we go about doing this? We have a few steps that we can look at. One is we want to form a hypothesis. And maybe based on some data or some information that we have about the company and maybe the company's customers. But it depends. Sometimes I've had students create a new version of the company's website, and it was much more engaging. It was much more visual and updated. And so we're not really using the customers, we're using information that might be more engaging for our customers to grow the business, right? So there are different things that we can do. But we want to form a hypothesis. And then we look at maybe brainstorming possible strategies to go along with that hypothesis. We want to do some research. We want to see what our competitors and others are doing out there as it relates to this particular area that we're suggesting for growth for our experiment. And then design the experiment, build an experiment sheet. What that means is that's the data that you're collecting and the information you're collecting that you'll be putting in this report. And then you want to run the experiment. Okay, so that's how we move forward. So let's go ahead and look at forming a hypothesis. So what is a hypothesis anyway? It's really just an educated guess. It's what we think may happen. And then we're going to conduct our experiment to see if it happens. So here is an example. I gave you the example of the website, the change of the website. Here, I'm going to give you another one that is a little bit more concrete, and you can take a look at this. So here, an example, customers who enjoy pay-per-use for a music editing app after 30 days are most likely to continue using the service for a year. All right, so that is an educated guess that those people will be more likely to continue for a year subscription after using the app for 30 days. So our hypothesis, our customers are willing to pay for the service after the 30 days. How you might be able to leverage that growth. The course content has a lot of information. This module has good information to help you with that under the reading section. And again, the slide deck, the lecture, all of it combines together. Incidentally, you want to also consider this information, well, every module for the review sheet for the final exam. So consider this as well. Research indicates that if you have a team of people working on a project, and certainly something like a growth experiment, that each person comes to the table with their own ideas of how to grow or how to offer a growth experiment. And then each member brings their ideas, and then you have some type of a discussion, and then you rank the most creative, and everyone decides this is the way we should move forward. So it's sort of like brainstorming your team's suggestions for growth. And some of you may wind up having the same information anyway as you've been moving along. So here the example is start a freemium model, a free model. After 30 days, users switch to the paid model. Scenario, we want to do research. Do we want to see, well, what are other competitors doing? Have they adopted this type of strategy? Does it appear as though it's working? What might you change? Maybe there's something you don't like about it or something that might make it better. And then if it looks promising, you move forward. And then you design the experiment, right? So how do you go about doing that? Maybe create some ad copy, prototypes. It depends on the experiment. Maybe you need to create a survey. The students that had done the website design, the new updated engaging website design, compared that with the current business website. And then a survey was sent out to students, faculty, staff, whoever they could get a hold of, and asked them their opinion. Which one do they like better and for what reason? So it was very detailed questionnaire. And then they got that data back and thought, well, let's just see how that worked. How did that work out? Is it better with the new engaging website, or do people really like the old website? And so for the students that had done that, there were areas of the new engaging website that were much more, well, they were considered to be more engaging and people would select them. But there were a few other items on the old website that were also very important. And so blending the two was the ultimate decision on that experiment. So sometimes our experiments don't always turn out exactly the way we expect them to. As a matter of fact, to that point, I had done a growth experiment for my undergrad studies, just like you're doing. And that was how to increase occupancy for a boutique hotel. Now, I owned a boutique hotel at that time, and I wanted to know, well, how do I increase my occupancy? And my hypothesis was that I believed that customers wanted luxury accommodations. Now, this was many years ago. And so I thought, that's really what they're here for. And I want to go ahead and see, I'm going to do this experiment and see if that such is the case. And so I interviewed and surveyed many different people, potential customers, not necessarily the customers that came to the boutique hotel. And those customers or those potential customers, really the data that I had got was not necessarily the luxury accommodations that they were after. They really wanted to be attended to. That was number one on their list. Yeah, the luxury accommodations are nice and they like them, but it was much more important to have the attention, which meant to them that as soon as they walked in the establishment, they wanted someone right there to greet them. When they came downstairs for whatever they needed, they wanted someone right there. They wanted to be attended to. And so I changed my business model slightly to just pivot it a little bit so that I can include the attention to the customers and put that forefront much more forward in my advertising on my website to not so much the luxury accommodations, although I included that, but it was more about the attention to the customer. And so that experiment was very useful to me, not the results that I expected, but I found the results extremely useful and it helped to increase my occupancy. So back here to the design experiment. You may add copy, prototypes, whatever it may be that you're designing to, and for the website idea, they designed the website, right? And they compared it with the two, and they also created the survey. And then you may need to include a treatment group and a control group. Now, with the experiment for the particular example, the treatment group is the people that are offered this 30-day freemium model and then switch to the paid model for the rest of the year or for a year. The control group, their control, they are not offered this. And then we look at what are the results and we compare the two to see what is happening there and if it makes sense to move forward with this experiment. not with the experiment, with actually rolling it out. We want to look at the experiment, and then we want to see if should we roll this out to all our customers or all our potential customers. So we want to have some type of method for tracking and measuring the experiment. And we want to suggest some type of a timeline, and then we decide on a sample size. Now, with this particular example, we roll out the 30-day paid option. What we do is 30 days freemium, no cost, but then it reverts to a 1-year paid subscription. Here, your data suggests that offering the option to 50 of your customers. So they have 50 customers, potential customers, whatever the case may be, which is 3% of the total customer pool. And 50 is a good number because you can achieve statistical significance with 50 in this group. And then if 25% of them switch to the paid model, then your experiment was certainly a success. 25% is a large amount that is enough for the resources and the costs involved with this to roll it out to the entire company, any customer who's willing to include. So this would be a huge success. So now we have our step 5, building our experiment sheet, right? So now we have our hypothesis is, what is it, right? And then to verify that hypothesis, what is it that you're going to do? How will you measure the experiment? And if the experiment is a success, if what? Okay, so pretty much what we've just gone through here. And then when we're running step 6, running our experiment, we want to perform some type of analysis, right? We want to see what is really happening there, collecting the data. It may take several weeks to a month. Well, this particular case, some other methods. You don't necessarily need to conduct an actual survey. You can suggest a survey to the business owner. I'm going to go over that with you. Anyway, if you have run an experiment and then you're viewing the results, maybe there's some key learning or implications or opportunities from that you can move along with. For me, with my boutique hotel, I learned a considerable amount from running that experiment. And then the website comparison, the new engaging version versus the old version of that experiment. Certainly the key learning was, we want to use part of the new and part of the old to blend it together. And sometimes the results are not what you expect, but we do have some good learning moments there. And then we discuss and decide what the next step would be. So basically, when we're looking at growth experiments, anything that we do in business, we have uncertainty. Just being an entrepreneur, we know that there's always uncertainty. You don't know what's around the corner, right? But we move forward anyway. And then we're oftentimes delighted and sometimes not so much, right? Sometimes we need to do things a little bit differently, but we learn from our situation. And here, growth experiments are no different, right? They take some of the uncertainty out of our high stakes business decision because we can implement this experiment with a smaller group and see what the results would be, rather than investing a lot of time, effort, and money, resources, whatever you have, to roll it out to everything and then let's see what happens, right? Better to go with a smaller group and see minimizing